Hello, everybody. Welcome to another MyMusic, and welcome again for the second time to Beau. How are you?
I'm doing great, Graham. Thanks for having me on.
That's an absolute pleasure. Beau Jennings, everybody. We're going to be speaking to Beau about his new record. Straight after this, you just have to hold your pants for 3 seconds. Okay, it's okay, and then you can maintain the excitement. But
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
wow, that just goes so quickly.
Yeah,
So last time you came to see me, you had the People in This Town album out.
yeah.
Yeah. How did that go down?
It was great. It was a kind of an experiment for us to try just releasing a single. We don't do normally singles that aren't tied to an album.
Yeah.
So that was a cool experiment that I think we might do more of those in the future. Usually, if we do a single, the idea is, at the very least, it becomes part of a record later. And it's funny, that song in a lot of ways I think set a little bit of a stage for this record, and arguably could have been put on the new record, but we at the end of the day we felt like we had enough and felt like it was just best to leave it as a single. So it didn't make the record, it just exists on its own.
Yeah. There you
But
go. Sorry, I don't know why I said it was an album because I knew it was a single. There we are. But it's late in the day, folks, and I've had a long day today, so you just have to excuse me sometimes. You've got a new album out, American Stories, Major Chords. What a great title. And right from the kickoff on here, some of the lyrics are great. Remind me of the line about VHS and cigarettes, because that's great. I love what's it you love about VHS? Because I love the whole old technology of VHS. For me, that just kind of immediately takes me back somewhere. Does it you?
yeah, we're probably dating ourselves here, but I mean, growing up, it was like if you my fondest memories of watching movies or whatever were things we taped off the television
Yeah.
onto a VHS, or when it was the weekend and our parents would take us to Blockbuster Video or whatever, and you could rent the VHS, and so just that grainy film look, that tape look, just the whole physicality of it, putting it in the thing, rewinding it, pressing play. It's just very nostalgic for me. And
It has got that incredible nostalgia to it, and but also, I mean, it was the start of. It really was the start of, I suppose, the way that we consume TV or whatever as it is now. In as much as I don't know whether people can, if you're old enough, you'll remember this, but the initial VHS recorders, literally, you put the VHS cassette, which was about this big, you put that into the machine, and you'd have to just press record at whatever time once you tuned it into that channel, and then that's what it would record. But then they suddenly got clever within not too much time, where you could actually set it to record something whilst you were out. That was a major breakthrough in terms of technology, because suddenly you didn't actually have to be in the room when something was on TV to be able to watch that program. You didn't miss it. You could go back to it. Yeah, that's major.
It was. It felt like It felt like you'd cracked some code or something. You don't have to race home and watch it right when it starts. You could watch it later.
You could. Having said that, it always went wrong. And again, I think that is actually something that's that's possibly, with our rose tinted specs, looking back at that time and whatever as well.
Well, yeah,
Probably love about that technology as well was the amount of times that it went wrong, because the amount of times that the clock, someone had turned the electricity off or whatever, and then when they turned it back on, the clock had reset on the VHS, and you'd end up arguing with someone because you go, "What have you done? I'd set it to record my program, and look, you haven't recorded my program, or it's recorded Coronation Street when I wanted to watch, Queen live at Wembley Stadium." It's
yeah, it really made you value. I think this is, with lots of other mediums too, whether you're comparing streaming a song instantly versus having to listen to it on a record where the songs happen, in a row. But it really made you value what you were watching or listening to. And then if you couldn't play it instantly, you just couldn't wait till you could play it. That's something there for sure.
So I found that immediately a really interesting lyric. I mean, the cigarette thing's quite interesting. Sort of putting that together with cigarettes as well, because cigarettes are. I don't know what it's like over there in the States, but cigarettes here are disappearing. Really, I mean, most people vape. They don't do cigarettes. Certainly, from a pub / club point of view or whatever. When I used to go out, everybody, not everybody smoked, but public places that you were surrounded by, people smoked. And nowadays, nobody smokes in a pub, in those public spaces. So there's I'd say
it's pretty much a thing of the past. There's a couple holdouts. If you're at a show, for example, especially backstage or out back behind a club or something, that's maybe a holdout. Or certain patios might let you, but I want to bet on it in most places.
I'll tell you what, it took me, that as soon as I heard those words, it immediately took me to, I used to have, as a kid, this book on marketing, and there was a whole page with the Marlboro Cowboy. I don't know whether you remember him, and he was up a telegraph pole in his Stetson and everything else, and he's hanging out with his, cigarettes, and I just felt,
yeah. I mean, smoking is, I mean this in a specific way, but it's cool to smoke. It's cool. Right. It looks cool. I don't know why. It's obviously terrible for you, and there's all kinds of consequences to it. But it looks cool. I don't know. It just is what it is. I don't know. It's just so ingrained in like culture. James Dean. Just when cool was invented, smoking was there, and it's just always going to be associated with that, no matter what.
Yeah, I think it was. Well, I think that was part of the marketing trick, wasn't it? There was so much marketing around smoking being cool for so long that people, by association, I mean, it's kind of been replaced by what would we say it's been replaced by now? Phones, probably. Tech.
Yeah, I don't know if there is an analog to it, but yeah, that might be a good one.
It's like someone standing there with the latest iPhone or something, or the latest Samsung or something. It's like, they're cool. Look at them. They got that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But that's kind of, I think, sort of like tech, or even kind of health now, just like real health stuff. Like if you got the right gym gear on, or
right, yeah,
something like that. It's almost it's almost that way now, isn't it?
Yeah, and when I say smoking is cool, I think it will probably always be considered cool for folks of our time. My kids, they do not see it cool in any way, shape, or form, and that's a positive thing. But
Yeah, no.
times have changed for sure.
Tell me about this building that's on the cover. Where's that?
Oh yeah, so all of the artwork for this record is based on these public domain photographs by this guy named John Margolis, who photographed lots of Oklahoma and Southwest in general, Southwestern United States. Lots of roadside attractions, whether they were old movie theaters or motels or gas stations or just that kind of vintage Route 66 Southwest Americana. And the guy that we worked with who did the album design and packaging was inspired by him. And so he found a lot of his stuff. And, at this point, the guy's work is it's public domain. So it's free use, right? So that was a big plus. But also it's great. It's great. And we felt like it, a lot of the tunes a lot of those songs are about people and places, specific people and places in this area, and it just felt like a fitting look.
Yeah,
That the album cover, I'm not sure the exact location of it, but it's an old movie theater from the 50s or so.
What I love about it is that there's not a person in that at all. You've got a great big building like that, which is a theatre, a cinema as such as we call them over here.
Yeah.
And, in the middle of the day, and you'd expect if you had a building like that, that's such a public place in the middle of the day, there'd be somebody in shot.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure it was probably abandoned at the time, by the time he had shot the outside of it. So, yeah.
But I found that an interesting image to look at from that perspective, if you know what I mean, because it's quite interesting when you get public places, but there's nobody there. That kind of gives you a feel as well, doesn't it? I mean, it just makes you think,
Well, yeah, I think back to the cigarette thing and VHS thing. This is
it's almost like all the people have been and they've gone.
Exactly. This was a thing and it's not anymore. Yeah.
There's kids. You do realize there's kids that are like listening to this now that are actually Googling VHS because they have not a Scooby's what a VHS is.
Well, I'll tell you this. I bought my son a one of those combo. It's like a little TV. It's this wide, this tall, and it's got a VHS player built into it. I got it for $10 at a vintage store. And I brought it home to him. He's like, "Dad, what is this?" And I was like, "Watch this." And I had bought like a VHS of that movie Lonesome Dove, that Western. And I put it in. But then he loves The Simpsons and Star Wars. And so he wanted some Simpsons and Star Wars VHS. And I was like, easy. We'll just go to any thrift store in town and find them. But what's funny is
it's harder to get.
It's harder to get. You can get plenty of DVDs and Blu-ray, but they're even anyway.
It's becoming like vintage vinyl,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if you've got like Star Wars first edition on VHS, you want to put that somewhere real safe and not play it and look up,
before they messed with it, before they added all the effects and stuff.
Yeah. And actually look after it, because that's the sort of stuff that on eBay is going to go up and up over the years.
I believe it 100%.
There was another song on this album that you've written in capital letters in the track listing, right? And it's a beast as well, Rubber Burn. Why the capital letters? I mean, it kind of makes sense to me just because of the sound of it for a start. But is it because of the way it sounds and the guitar sound on that, which is viciously awesome, or is it just? Is there another reason why you put that in capital letters?
Well, back to technology. When
Caps lock not stuck on.
no, whenever I type it in my phone, and I don't know why this is, it automatically would capitalize the whole word. And I have no idea why that happened. But I don't know if it's some weird AI thing. Dude, I don't know. I really don't. But whenever I would for example, if I would when I recorded a demo of it and I texted it to the band to listen to, like, hey guys, I made this demo. Let's record it soon. Here's how it could sound, right? It's called Rubber Burn. Well, I texted the word rubber burn to everybody and it came out all caps. So it felt right. And it's like, let's go with it. But that's truly how that happened.
Perhaps AI is cleverer than we think it is.
Dude, it freaks me out.
Do you know what? Maybe it actually is. Maybe it actually, it heard it, it listened to it, it went, this is standout. Listen to this guitar sound. I think this needs to be in capital letters. I'm just going to force Beau to have it in capital letters, and here probably just think it is a tech mistake, but actually I know exactly what I'm doing here. Imagine if it was actually that clever.
I think it's more possible than I want to admit.
Unfortunately, I think it is. Oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah, that's how that came to be. The all caps thing. Yeah.
Do you know what? I love that. That's a great little story. You need to tell that if you're doing more interviews, you need to tell that story on interviews, because that is a great story. Is there or are there any other stories behind this album that you want to tell? I mean, was there anything different in the recording of this from previous albums that you want to let the world know about?
Well, the recording process was pretty standard. We went into the studio, made it as a band. One interesting aspect from a technology standpoint, again, seems to be the theme so far of what we're talking about, is we're an Oklahoma-based band, but our drummer recently moved to Atlanta. It's like a 10-hour.
How dare he?
So there were a number of sessions actually where we would meet in the morning via Zoom.
Yeah.
And I would strum through, everybody else is in Oklahoma. I would strum through the song on Zoom together, and he's on the other end, and he'd say, yeah, okay, how about this kind of pattern? And we would sort of arrange the song over Zoom. Then I would, about 10 o'clock in the morning, I'd put down the acoustic, put down a scratch vocal track. We'd upload it to him. He'd have it about 20 minutes later. He would play drums in his studio, take about an hour. He'd send it back, and by 12:30, we have a drum track to start recording to. Let's start putting the bass and acoustic and all the keyboards in. I mean, that still kind of blows my mind, even though I understand, it all kind of makes sense how that can work. But that happened quite a few times on this record. So yeah, from a recording process, it's kind of new and experimental, I guess.
It is quite scary how we've advanced in terms of that. Getting back to the fact that technology is always listening to us, which it is. We know that it is, because anybody that opens their phone up of an evening, you've been looking at something. We've had it this week because we were looking at camper vans. Don't ask me why. I don't think we've got the room to put one anywhere at the moment, but we were looking at camper vans. And then, of course, you go from Google, where you might be looking at camper vans, to Instagram. And as you're scrolling through Instagram, it's like, win a camper van.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you're listening to me. Does that ever make you wonder if, like, the more musicians use technology to get together and put their ideas together over technology, is there something listening back there that's going, I know all of the ideas that musicians are coming up with, and then
Oh,
suddenly do you know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
I do. That also makes me think. Some, I type a lot of lyrics into my phone as I'm going about my day. If I hear a snippet of conversation I want to use, or some phrase comes to me, I'll put it in my notes app, right? Or maybe like a Google Doc, And it got me thinking about, like, I think there's a lot of renewed focus on, like, protest music, right? Just
Yeah.
with world events, and it's like, could anybody actually write like a really subversive protest song now, and like it mattering? Because if you were going to protest technology or AI, I mean, you're like showing your hand, it's just
Yeah.
it's a funny thought. Like, if you were going to just say something really subversive that you know was truly dangerous, you know you're already telling them what you're doing. It's interesting. How do you keep things pure and close to the vest, and how do you do all that, if you're just constantly telling the
It's a good thing and a bad thing, isn't it? It's yin and
constantly
yang for me.
telling Skynet what you're about to do,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great in a way, because I think part of what it does is, it creates a bigger pool of resource for an artist to draw from as well. You're more aware of what's going on in the world
Mm-hmm.
than we, ever would have been 20, 30 years ago.
Sure.
We didn't really know what was going on the other side of the planet. Now we do, because we can actually see it if we want to. We can turn on the computer and look at live webcam footage of what's going on the other side of the planet.
Right. Right.
We've got a million people who are journalists, not just the one or two that are employed to do it. So I think we're more informed, although you've got to question all the time the authority of those voices, or the what the agenda of any of those voices is, right?
100%. Yeah.
And I think that's a massive issue, because I think ultimately, when it was the BBC, and the BBC had to withhold, like a kind of, once upon a time, had to withhold kind of a very agnostic viewpoint. But now no journalism seems to hold. I wish it did, because I strive for real journalism again. But a lot of journalism doesn't. It has a view, and it has an agenda, and it's quite often it's paid for, and therefore you wonder what is what you're reading a view.
Right.
But then at the same time, it enables you to make these catalogs, and like, if this is an album that's a catalog of towns and places, and sort of snapshots of what Americana looks like at a particular time. Look, think about Springsteen albums that were very much about, this is what New Jersey looks like, and this is what this bar is, or whatever. Those are important documents to take down through history, and now they're just more accessible, and ultimately, hopefully, they hang around, right?
I think that's a great example. I think that in a lot of ways, I like the, in a roundabout way, the concept of doing something similar for where I'm from. Just documenting, capturing the towns, the people I know, the places I know, and the events that are happening. Most and largely because that's just kind of the way I try to write, is to write about what I know and what I experience. However, however unique or universal it may be.
Yeah.
Let the chips fall where they fall, and here's the stories that I've been exposed to, and so this is my job, is to write about them.
I'll tell you, one of the things I find really interesting, I've interviewed quite a lot of American artists recently, and one of the things I love about talking to artists from the other side of the world is that, and this is really interesting, actually, considering we have all of this knowledge now about what's out there, is we still kind of believe a lot of myths. And I'm sure, and I think actually it goes both ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of Americans don't know what it's like in my part of England. Right. So I live in the southwest, and a lot of Americans don't know what it's like in, sort of south of Bristol and heading towards Cornwall or whatever. That kind of part of the UK doesn't get talked about a lot. You all perhaps know what it's like in London.
Right.
And you
right.
know what it's like in places like Liverpool, because the Beatles and
Right.
and all of those music scenes. But in the country, like with cider, you don't don't necessarily know what it's like. But some of the theories that go back the other way are funny as well. I mean, I had a guest on the other day from Philadelphia, and I said to them, what do you think the majority of people in the UK will think of immediately when you talk about Philadelphia? And they were like, oh, this and this. And I said, no, it'll be the soft cheese.
Okay.
And the film, right? The Tom Hanks film.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, right. Not, and I think there's still a lot of kind of assumptions that we built, or sort of like myths that we kind of build up, modern mythologies that we build up about what certain places look like. So I think I love albums that give me a snapshot of where somewhere is,
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't thought of that before, but well, I do remember years ago I did a study abroad program, and I came to Birmingham, and I was there for about 6 months. And I remember talking to these guys on my flat, and they were like, I had bought a ticket to go to Dublin for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
It was so cheap, and I was like, that's what you do, right? If you're anywhere close, you go to Dublin for St. Patrick's Day. And none of them had been. And I thought, wow, that's amazing that you guys are from here, and it's so easy, and you haven't done it. They turned around and they said, well, have you been to Mardi Gras? It's like, no. Why would you do that? So it was just, the stuff in your own backyard, you look at it differently from than how someone else would.
Yeah. And we make albums over here occasionally we make albums over here like this. I don't know whether I talked to you about this last time, but we have bands over here like Deacon Blue. Did I mention Deacon Blue to you last time?
I've heard of that name, but I don't know if you told me.
Their first album that they released over here, which is called Raintown, which is such a great name, which is basically about Glasgow.
Okay.
And on the cover of that, similar thing in kind of a sepia, a sepia version of black and white. There's a very famous image by a photographer called Oscar Mazzaroli, I think his name was, and it's kind of a rainy day over Glasgow's West End, and you can see this Finnieston crane, which is always there, featuring prominently in the background on it. But the songs and the lyrics, a lot of them on that album are kind of, within the stories that it unpacks, tell you about the architecture, and they tell you about the, you know, the places, and even down to the rubbish on the streets. And
That's cool.
I love details, and it goes back to your, you know, starting off with something like VHS and cigarettes. I think it's great. It's such a little detail, but it immediately puts you in a place at a time. You know, that's great.
I mean, I love that stuff. I'm always trying to find those details that, that can do that. That's my favorite part of it, the whole thing, for sure.
Yeah. Do you think every album should come with a pair of rose tinted specs? It'd be good, wouldn't it?
You know, it's funny. Nostalgia it's a funny thing. Someone else the other day, I was talking to them about the record, and they're like, "This record feels very nostalgic," and I'm like, I know that's kind of a dirty word. Sometimes people say I'm not nostalgic, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know whether I am or I'm not. It's just, I've gotten to a point in my life where I've lived a number of places. I've met a number of people, and these things have happened to me, and I've lived these different stories that it's what I want to write about. If that's nostalgia, so be it. But these are my stories to tell, you know.
Yeah, I think there's a danger in nostalgia, in that we can see the past as a better time.
Sure.
Maybe. But at the same time, if we see everything as a journey, and where we are now is part of where we've been, and that's made us where we are now, then celebrating that and, you know, almost romanticizing that's not a bad thing, I don't think.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. I think the question of, you know, are we talking about the past versus are we celebrating it or over romanticizing it?
Yeah.
If that's nostalgia, I don't think that's not really what I'm into, but just more of almost like a documentary filmmaker type approach is where I'd like to think I'm coming from.
Yeah. I also think that there's an element, I don't know what you think about this as well. Let's get back to the modern day thing as well. I like the fact that people are getting back to things like vinyl. I like the fact that people are getting back to actually wanting sleeve art and notes and stuff like that, and physical. I'm actually very hopeful, and that's why it's great when people do albums with great photography on the front, because I'm actually hopeful that we might, even though everything's digital, that we actually might feel a little bit more precious about good photos these days. Because think of how many photos we throw away these days. Yeah. How many photos people take thousands of photos. Going back not that long, you know, photos cost you money to take them. So
yeah,
we were really precious about taking moments. Now we just like, look at that.
I know.
And chuck it away. But hey, there's a real danger. I'm going to say this. There is a real danger that, and we've seen it once or twice, or we see it once or twice, probably a year, where a big server goes down somewhere, or, you know, someone hacks something or whatever, and suddenly we're all offline, right?
Yeah.
And there's a big danger that actually all those things that we think that we've got in our memories, that we've got in storage somewhere, that we've taken or whatever, just go, right? And so to me, that's another reason why these physical documents that people like you are making of places are so important. So important. Go buy the album, folks. You'll have a physical document. You know,
Agreed.
but it's really important.
100%, 100%. No, I had that exact same thought the other day, and yeah, it does make you okay. Are these? It does make you really think about, okay, I could make an album today on my iPhone, and I could upload it. I could just record 10 songs into my iPhone notes. Those are music files now. I could upload those by noon, and I could release a record by like 3:00, and it could just be like, hey, here's my new record, you know. Now, and it's this quantity versus quality question at that point, and then how much of that is worth putting onto a physical document? How many of those photographs belong on album covers? It does make you step back and evaluate all that.
No, it really does. What's your hope for, or who do you hope to attract to listening to this record? I mean, it's probably everybody, but I mean, is there someone that you'd think sometimes when you've listened back to it, you think, oh, I hope these people hear it?
I just, people that just appreciate stories and writing and the little nuances of songwriting. Obviously, you want everybody to like it, but I do think that we put a lot of time and care into the songwriting process, but also the recording process and the production. I think we put a lot of time and care into that, and not necessarily in an effort to make pop radio hits. There's a little bit of a difference between the two, but I do hope that people that appreciate well-crafted records would find something here that they would like.
You just look. You're disappointing me. What you're saying that you don't want pop hits? I mean, of course you.
I want the songs I write to be pop hits. I don't want to write pop hits that I hear on the radio. I don't dislike them, but I'm not cut out for that. I'm not made to do that. So I'm made to do what I do. If those become pop hits, that's cool. But I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I don't know how many people actually, or many artists, to get into that headspace for writing stuff that's just has no meaning to it whatsoever. It's cool to have a tune that just annoys the hell out of people by getting into their head, and that's always been the case with pop music, that there's always been those songs that just drive you insane because they're catchy and they're sort of earworm and whatever else. But
I mean, they all have their place, and they all
yeah. But when you have to get up in front of people and sing it, right? That's what drives you mad. That's what drives people to insanity, right? And
I'm sure it could, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, we've actually seen that happen to more and more pop people over the years, that they literally just go off their rocker because I just couldn't do it every night, right? It's actually, the thing is, you've got to think about it. It's no different from like somebody who in their day job is struggling with it mentally because they're just doing the same inane thing over and over and over and over again, and with no joy in it.
Yeah. Well, and why do people do that? To get paid, get through the day. So
yeah,
it's the job.
You heard it here first, folks. Pop music is made by musicians who want to get paid.
Yeah, that's right. We're breaking ground here.
Yeah, No, absolutely. Listen, it's been a pleasure talking to you again. It always is. I I want to say that I've enjoyed listening to this record. I've enjoyed listening to the songs on this record. I've enjoyed looking at the cover. I want to see the whole thing now. I want to see all of the artwork because it sounds like an absolute joy. So on the inside, on the inside of the sleeve or in the inside of the CD case or whatever, there's going to be more photos as well, and it's kind of takes us on that journey a bit.
Yeah, there's actually a whole really great collage he's put together for all the panels. It's a really cool packaging. Yeah, we're really stoked on it.
There you go. What we've done there is we just tease people visually over audio, which is a marvelous thing. It's a great thing to be able to achieve. But it's the only thing that is the beauty of the spoken word. I do believe because only on spoken word media can you actually achieve that. I once had a radio show which was a comedy show on a Friday night. And we used to take the rip out of that show on other days of the week. And it was like a magazine show where we'd have guests in and they talk about their ordinary lives. And mine started off like that as well. And then I said, oh, actually, could I make mine a bit different on a Friday? And I'd like to get people in from the comedy circuit. And then we started having people in that could juggle 5 filing cabinets whilst playing guitar. Because you can make that happen on radio.
I like it.
You know?
Yeah.
And that to me is one of the things that's great about radio, but it's also what's great about music, and it's great about the sort of music you make there as well, which is that, you know, you can, with the great photos, it's great, but you can close your eyes, you can listen to lyrics like that, and you can step into a different place in the world at a different time, and you can feel it, and that's amazing. It's amazing that people can achieve that through the power of music. You know, no sort of travel website is as good as an album of a place. There you go.
Well said.
See, that's deep. We'll leave it at a deep point like that. Beau, thank you so much for joining me again. Thanks for having that conversation with me. Folks, Beau Jennings, please do go out and check the album out. We'll put links in to the album. You can go and pre-order on Bandcamp. I know that for certain.
Right.
So go and do that. Check it out and join the mailing list so that you keep in touch with Beau as well. That's always a really great idea. So you can kind of follow him through his career as it traverses. We'll be back soon with another MyMusic. I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation. If you have, please do support and share with other friends and family. If you haven't, sorry for wasting 43 minutes of your time. As usual, you can get it back. You just need to go and buy some chloroseptic throat spray from the local chemist and put that in a mug and send it to Botswana, stamped addressed envelope. You'll get your 40 minutes back. So I've been told. It could be a lie. You never know. AI could have written this script. Until next time, bye for now.